After 2 months patrolling the Pacific, the USS Wahoo, a Gado-class submarine, had shown disappointing results. She had missed valuable opportunities to strike a Japanese seaplane tender and an aircraft carrier, both of which would have been significant victories. All torpedoes fired had failed to hit their marks, and even small fishing vessels had managed to evade her. The sub's poor performance led to the removal of her commander. His replacement, Lieutenant Commander Dudley Walker Morton, was determined to change the submarine's fate. In the months that followed, the USS Wahoo transformed into one of the most aggressive and feared American submarines of World War II. Morton's bold tactics and relentless pursuit of enemy targets earned the vessel a fearsome reputation within the Japanese Navy. Yet Wahoo's growing success would eventually provoke a powerful enemy response, leading to a devastating turn in her story. The first Gado-class submarine, USS Drum, was commissioned in 1941. At the time of America's entry into the war, she was the only one of her kind in service. Despite their limited numbers, only 77 were built. The Gado-class submarines became the most advanced and effective of the conflict. These large vessels could carry up to 24 torpedoes and had an operational range exceeding 20,000 kilometers. They were more powerful than any submarines the enemy could deploy. USS Wahoo was launched in February 1942 and commissioned in May under Lieutenant Commander Marvin G. Kennedy. The submarine was expected to perform vital missions in the Pacific, aiming to cut off Japanese supply routes and isolate their islands. After completing training off the California coast, she departed Mare Island on August 12th and arrived at Pearl Harbor 6 days later. On August 21st, she set out for combat. Wahoo's first 2 war patrols were underwhelming. The blame fell partly on Commander Kennedy's leadership and also on the malfunctioning Mark 14 torpedoes. During her first mission near Truk on September 6, 1942, she encountered a lone freighter and launched 3 torpedoes, all of which missed. The freighter turned and charged at the submarine, forcing Wahoo to dive and retreat, fearing an aerial counterattack. Later, on September 20th, Wahoo targeted another freighter and escort ship. 3 torpedoes missed, and while a 4th struck its target, the escort began pursuing Wahoo. She escaped only by changing course in a rain squall. In early October, she came across a Japanese seaplane tender and an aircraft carrier. Despite the strategic value of both targets, hesitation and poor tactics allowed both ships to escape unscathed. Kennedy's second patrol didn't fare better. In one encounter, Wahoo faced a convoy of 3 cargo ships escorted by a destroyer. Unable to get into proper firing range, Kennedy shifted his focus to a larger tanker and fired 4 torpedoes from a distance of 700 yards. 3 connected, but the ship took over 2 hours to sink, showing the ineffective damage of the hits. After this disappointing patrol, Kennedy was relieved of duty, and command of Wahoo passed to Lieutenant Commander Dudley Walker Morton. Morton believed in a direct and fearless approach to submarine warfare. Upon taking command, he told the crew that the Wahoo was now considered expendable, and they would fight under that understanding. He offered anyone who disagreed the chance to leave with no penalty. No one did. Morton's first engagement came on January 26th. He spotted a large tanker and a freighter and immediately fired 4 torpedoes. The tanker began to sink, while the freighter charged at the submarine, attempting to ram her and opening fire with its deck gun. Morton ignored the immediate threat and focused on 2 other cargo ships that had just been spotted, successfully hitting one as it tried to escape. Meanwhile, the damaged freighter bore down on Wahoo, prompting Morton to fire 2 more torpedoes at point-blank range. The first torpedo missed, but the second struck the target. Despite being hit, the freighter continued charging at Wahoo, forcing Morton to make a sharp turn at the last moment to avoid being rammed. Without wasting time, Morton turned the submarine back toward the damaged tanker that had been hit earlier. One of the 2 torpedoes fired exploded in the ship's midsection, quickly sending it to the bottom. The surviving freighter and another tanker regrouped at a distance and began withdrawing together. Meanwhile, sailors from the sunken ships deployed lifeboats. In a controversial decision, Morton ordered his crew to open fire on the Japanese sailors in the lifeboats. He later claimed they had fired machine guns at Wahoo and insisted the goal was only to sink the boats. It was later revealed that many of those aboard the lifeboats were Indian prisoners of war from the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment. After driving the prisoners and Japanese sailors off the boats, Morton resumed the pursuit of the remaining vessels. With only 4 torpedoes left, he knew he had to make them count. Wahoo targeted the fleeing tanker first, firing 2 torpedoes. The first missed, but the second struck just aft of midships, destroying the ship's rear and sinking it nearly instantly. To finish off the convoy, Wahoo turned to the damaged freighter and fired the final 2 torpedoes. Both struck their target. 15 minutes later, after absorbing 4 torpedo hits in total, the freighter finally sank. Despite his ruthless methods, Morton continued delivering remarkable results while in command of Wahoo. On January 27, 1943, the crew encountered a convoy of 8 ships, including 2 freighters and a tanker. With no torpedoes remaining, Morton devised a creative plan. Noticing that the tanker was unarmed and appeared to be having engine trouble, he surfaced behind her, hoping to scatter the convoy in a panic. His plan was to use the deck gun to finish off the tanker once the ships separated. But just as things seemed to be going smoothly, a Japanese destroyer suddenly emerged from a rain squall and forced Wahoo to retreat. Even so, Morton and his aggressive crew continued to instill fear among Japanese sailors, often engaging enemy vessels with deck guns when torpedoes ran out. Wahoo became the only American submarine to enter the Sea of Japan before the final months of the war, setting a U.S. Navy record by sinking a total of 94,776 tons of enemy shipping in just 25 days of patrol. Ironically, the very success that had made Wahoo legendary would also lead to her end. On October 5, 1943, Morton and his crew ambushed and destroyed the Army transport ship Conran Maru. Out of 616 passengers, only 72 survived. The incident enraged the Japanese high command, especially since 2 members of the House of Representatives were among the dead. In retaliation, the Japanese launched a massive campaign to hunt down every American submarine near their homeland. On October 11th, Wahoo was due to leave her patrol area when a Japanese floatplane spotted signs of a submerged submarine, including a visible wake in an oil slick. A large-scale anti-submarine operation began immediately, with Japanese forces attacking by sea and air, dropping hundreds of depth charges over several hours. Wahoo never returned. She was officially removed from the Navy's register on December 6, 1943. It wasn't until 2006 that the wreck was discovered, revealing that the submarine had been sunk by an aerial bomb near the conning tower. A year later, the U.S. Navy held a wreath-laying ceremony at the site to honor the lost crew.